All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a 49er video. And, Pig and a Pickle, of course, you can check them out. The best barbecue in Northern California. They're open 7 days a week in Corte Madera. They're open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. The brisket chili, it's amazing. Go try Pig and a Pickle in one of their 2 locations, and you will be a fan for life. All right, we're talking 49ers. How about this story today? Ben Roethlisberger says the 49ers reached out to him in 2022. The former Steeler quarterback, the Niners, according to Roethlisberger, contacted him about playing for them last year. And this is what Roethlisberger told the Pittsburgh radio host Mark Madden earlier on Tuesday. He said there were some truths to the Niners. There were some truths to the Niner thing, just in the sense that they were reaching out just to maybe gauge my interest. He said, I had discussions. I don't want to sit here and say I was going or anything like that. They called to gauge interest. Okay. I had conversations with my agent, with my wife, my family, prayed a lot about it. Roethlisberger didn't specify whether the Niners brass reached out, but the most logical time would have been, didn't say when they reached out, but said that the most logical time was when, Jimmy got hurt. Jimmy hurt his foot in December, and the Niners were reeling. So that meant that Brock Purdy was the starter, but the team also had no backups. And, supposedly Phillip Rivers hit the Niners up in December about coming to the 49ers. But I bet you the Niners at the end of last year were really, they didn't know exactly what they had in Brock Purdy. All they knew is they had a Super Bowl caliber team, and Jimmy G was likely done for, if not the whole year, a good portion of the year. And you look at all the guys who were potentially out there. The Rams scooped up Baker Mayfield off the waiver wire. The Niners wind up adding Josh Johnson to back up Purdy. And then Purdy took off, and he led the Niners through this incredible run through the NFC. They won 8 straight games with the man they call Mr. Irrelevant at quarterback until Hassan Reddick basically ended the Niners season and Purdy's season by ripping Purdy's arm back on a throw. So Roethlisberger, who said elsewhere in the interview that the thing he missed least about football was injuries and pain, admitted that he did give it some thought. So that's interesting. And here's the quote. He says, I'd be lying if I didn't say there was some small part of me that was intrigued, like, oh man, I could still do it. Prove to people I could still play. But at the end of the day, I just can't see myself in anything other than black and gold. Even though they had a great chance, I think, to win the Super Bowl, it would have been hard to go win a Super Bowl anywhere but Pittsburgh at the end of the day. It was the smallest little belief in my heart to go play again. So, Roethlisberger is one of the only quarterbacks in NFL history to have suffered an injury even remotely similar to the UCL tear that Purdy did this year. In 2019, he tore several tendons in his elbow, and that limited him to just 2 games that season. He did return in 2020. He finally ran out of gas after the 2021 season, retiring with 2 Super Bowl rings. So, it is interesting to think about the hypothetical for Niner fans. Should they have pushed harder for Ben Roethlisberger instead of leaning on Josh Johnson? If Roethlisberger had somehow come to San Francisco, once upon a time, he did face serious rape and sexual assault allegations. This is way back in 2009 and 2010. He was never charged in the 2010 Georgia case. The NFL did suspend him for the first 4 games of that season. He later settled the 2009 Lake Tahoe case for what was reportedly a 6-figure settlement going to the accusers. So, how would the last year have gone differently for the 49ers? It's really, really hard to say. Would Ben Roethlisberger sitting on the bench after not playing for a couple of years had been a better alternative than Josh Johnson? I would say undoubtedly, but it's not for sure, right? It's not a lock that Ben Roethlisberger would have been better. But I think he would have been better. I think he Roethlisberger is a borderline Hall of Fame player. But he had been retired for a couple years and he hadn't been playing. And did he know the Niner offense? No. But the Niners sure had great weapons, and he could have handed it off. I definitely would have if you had asked me, right when Brock Purdy got hurt. Okay, you can play the rest of this game with Josh Johnson, or you could play the rest of this game with Ben Roethlisberger. Who would you choose? You know, not even having seen Johnson play, I would have quickly taken Roethlisberger, and I think most Niner fans would have as well. Um, but now it's the what could have been with I'll say this. I don't believe that the 49ers with Ben Roethlisberger coming off the bench at that point would have still been able to beat the Eagles in their place. Um, Now, if they had signed him a little earlier in the year and he, had gotten some reps, that was one thing. But once Purdy played well against Miami, they were going to go with him. And to me, going with Purdy was a smart thing to do. Now you realize what you had in Purdy. But let's just say Purdy came on in that Miami game and fell on his face. And instead of playing great football, what if he came out and played horrendous football? Then maybe the Niners would have pushed harder for Roethlisberger. And who knows? Maybe at that point he decides to come out of retirement and play for them. But it's all the, woulda, coulda, shoulda at this point. Would the Niners have beaten the Eagles in Philly with Ben Roethlisberger over Josh Johnson? As much as I want to think they would have had a better chance, if I'm really being honest, I would say no. No way. The Niners weren't going to beat the Eagles that day with Josh Johnson, and they weren't going to beat him with Ben Roethlisberger. So it's a great story, and it makes for an interesting thing to talk about for sure. But were the Niners really going to get it done in Philly at the Link with Roethlisberger? This is one Niner fan that says, no way. Wasn't going to happen. All right. Hope you enjoyed our 49er video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueg Show. They're open 7 days a week in Corte Madera. They're open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Try Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. And keep it locked on the Krueg Show all year long, as we'll have great 49er content all year long, right up to and through the draft, right into training camp and the 2023 season. It's all straight ahead. And you can catch the Krueg Show at all times on YouTube.